What's up, my fellow emo, pop punk, metalcore music lovers? Matrix here, and you are locked into the Matrix Music Review Podcast, the only place to get your alt-rock music fix. And we are back. The voice has healed. I have all of my voice back. It's still a little rough, but definitely better than what we had the last two episodes that I did for you guys. So we are back with a new episode today, and today's episode is a special episode. So a couple of weeks back, I posted on my Instagram a poll to see if you guys were interested in hearing reviews about two scene-adjacent artists in Billie Eilish and 21 Pilots. Normally, these are artists that we probably wouldn't consider alt-rock, at least not in the sense of this podcast, because we definitely focus on the pop-punk side, the metalcore side, hardcore side, and these two artists definitely don't fit that mold. But I thought it was interesting to see what you guys thought and if you were interested in hearing reviews of those two albums. And the answer that I got was that you definitely wanted to hear about it and you wanted to hear about both. So that's what today's pod's going to be about. We're going to review the new 21 Pilots album, the new Billie Eilish album, and then at the very end, I'm going to toss it back to what we're normally doing, and I'm going to go into some songs and artists that I've really been playing a lot lately. I know I haven't done a end of month list or anything like that recently, so this is going to be a good way for you guys to understand what I've been listening to a lot lately, and hopefully add those songs to your playlist. Speaking of playlists, all the links to anything that you need from me is in the description of this episode. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and our Control-Alt-Save playlist. All those links are in the description here. Follow me on all those locations. Stay up to date on the latest playlist updates. I update that every week, every other week around there with all the new tracks that I've been listening to, whether they're discussed on the pod or not. If you're listening to this podcast on Apple Music or Spotify, give it a 5-star review. That helps to push this content out to other people, which is something you guys can do by sharing this podcast with friends, family, whoever it may be in your life that needs a new podcast. Send this to them, and let's continue to grow our little community of alt-rock music lovers. So with that, we're going to jump right into these two reviews, and the first one we're going to talk about is Clancy by 21 Pilots. So look, I'm going to be honest here, and I've never really been that big of a 21 Pilots fan. I understand it. I don't hate them. I've never been like, oh, I can't stand 21 Pilots or anything like that. They've always just been a band that hasn't really connected with me for some reason. And it's interesting because their song Ride, I actually have a really strong connection with and a pretty fond memory of. So when Ride came out, it was right around the time that I got my first real job, and I was working right out of college, and I was working a lot of evening shifts, and we always had the, top 40 radio station playing, and that was a song that was always on, and it was something that I just kind of always go back to those times. It was a really fun time in my life, really exciting time in my life. So Ride is a song that I always have associated with good memories, but 21 Pilots themselves have never really been my cup of tea, so I was interested to check out Clancy when you guys said that you wanted a review. So 21 Pilots, along with Billie Eilish, the other artists that we're reviewing today, are what I would consider scene adjacent. So they're not artists that we would classically or traditionally consider part of the alt-rock music scene in the terms of what we refer to, but I definitely think that they are right on that edge and can be subbed in at any point in time, and I feel like they could adjust their style and really be part of this scene and would do extremely well in it as well. So this Clancy album, and this is something that stands out for all of 21 Pilots, anytime I've listened to their music or anything from them, one thing that always stands out is the flow that they have. There is never a choppy section in a song. There's never a part of an album that doesn't feel like it flows into the other. It always feels very put together. And I think that says a lot about the artistry that is 21 Pilots, because a lot of the times that they're making music, it's not in a standard way that anybody else is. It may not be the same rhyme schemes. It may not be the same time signatures, anything like that. So a lot of times when artists make those adjustments, it does sometimes feel a little choppy, but it definitely does not have that effect for me, at least when I'm listening to 21 Pilots. It always feels very crisp and put together. Looking at the tracks on here, Next Semester is a track that when I first listened to it, I don't know why, but it very much feels like it's ticketed for a commercial. It feels like, the next T-Mobile or AT&T commercial that we have is going to use that with some skateboarding dog or some shit like that in the background. And that just feels kind of like a very standard commercial track, but it's a different twist because 21 Pilots always has that twist on it. And interestingly enough, moving further into this album, I have actually discovered one of my favorite tracks of the year in listening to this album, and that's Routines in the Night. It has such a funkiness in the beat that makes it so radio worthy. And in doing some research for this, I started to look into Reddit. Now, I didn't get that far into it because the lore of 21 Pilots and the albums and all these different things that Tyler has potentially thought of, or all these different things that their fan base is very much into, I didn't want to dive too far into that. But it was interesting, and I saw a comment that made a lot of sense when I was looking specifically at Routines in the Night, and it said it has this radio appeal to it that they know will never get there. It's one of those songs that they say, their fans say, feels a lot like Chlorine, where Chlorine was not a radio single. It wasn't pushed that way, but it was definitely one that had that feel to it. And I can understand that because Chlorine was one that I definitely liked from the last album when I listened to it. And this track has such a intricate production choice on it. There's all these little noises and pops and all these different things that you don't really get if you're just a casual listen at this point. If you really want to try and pay attention to some of the more intricate, different things that are going on in a song, Routines in the Night is perfect for that because there are so many very minor things that are done in it. But when you listen to it critically like that, it really pops and it really makes it have that much more of an effect for you. And lyrically, I think this track is very almost haunting in a way because it's very open to interpretation like all music is. And for me, the interpretation of this song lyrically is that it's very much a journey of kind of laying down at night just with your thoughts, and you're not sleeping because these thoughts are racing through your head and you're just trying to kind of navigate all these different things to kind of get back to that happy place and that calming place. And this is, I think, the longest I've really talked about a specific track this year. And it is just one that has stuck with me since I heard it. And it's been linked in the playlist, but definitely go check that specific song out. If nothing else, at least listen to that one with this album. And going further into these tracks, the high notes on Vignette are absolutely incredible. And then the flow into the Craving is just absolutely gorgeous. It's a beautiful, beautiful little maneuver there. And one thing that, and I really don't know how to say this because I feel like it's going to come off as kind of like a pretentious dickhead statement here, but a lot of these tracks sound like somebody took circus sounds and built them into musical tracks, and it makes so much sense. It makes it work so well. And I really don't want that to come across as like juvenile or anything in the music production, because it's anything but that. But in songs like Lavish and Oldie Station and Risk of Feeling Dumb, it's just very minor production pieces that kind of, to me, remind me of these circus noises. And I just couldn't get it out of my head once I had heard that. I just could not get that thought out of my head. So let me know what you guys think of that specific statement. But overall, I think it's a 21 Pilots album. I think it's got its ups. It's got its downs. It's got things that are going to make your head spin because you can't quite grasp it. It's got things that are really going to make you sit there and think. It's got great lyricism. It's got strong production. It's got funky beats, and overall, it's just a good time. I mean, I think for both of these albums, I'm not going to do any ratings out of 10 or anything like that because I don't think that's fair for me. I'm not a huge listener, so I don't want to give it a rating and then have people get mad at me, to be honest. I think that's what would happen. So I think overall this was a really fun album. I had a lot of fun listening to this, and it's one of those situations where, if 21 Pilots keeps putting out albums, I'm going to keep listening because there's always something new. I always find something that I like on it, and that's something cool to me. I think that's definitely something worth paying attention to. So if you haven't heard it yet, go check out Clancy by 21 Pilots. And the last album, the second album we're going to talk about, is Hit Me Hard and Soft by Billie Eilish. This is Billie's third full album, and Billie is somebody that's just always kind of around the scene. I think she's someone that really would benefit from even just a feature in the scene, and I know there's been rumblings about Bring Me the Horizon and doing a collaboration there since Ollie Sykes had that whole Instagram thing, and it's come out in the news recently, and he's actually explained what that was all about. And I'll let you look the story up for yourself, but the moral of the story, he believes he sent her a limousine. Not sure if she heard it, not sure if she would have ever thought about getting on it. But I personally would love to see Billie jump in this scene and just see what would happen, because I feel like we've gotten songs that kind of play to that strength a little bit in the past, whether it's a song like You Should See Me in a Crown that kind of has that type of production, even an Oxytocin to some respects with that upbeat production could really fall in that realm. But this is an artist that I've always really admired for their artistry and their lyricism and all of these different things. And so going into Hit Me Hard and Soft was something I was looking forward to. I've always been a Billie Eilish fan, so I was actually looking forward to this one. And Billie has a way of making albums kind of have their own feel to it. And with this one, it feels very ethereal. It's always going to evoke some sort of emotion from you, regardless of how you're feeling that particular time. And I think that's something that Billie has also mastered, in that it's very clear that there's always going to be some sort of emotional response to the music that's being produced here. And it opens right away with a song like Skinny. And Skinny is just this absolutely, I don't even know how to describe it other than just this introspective look at what stardom can do to someone and how stardom can make someone's head just get absolutely fucked. And it's so interesting to hear somebody put out a song like this almost directly after What I Was Made For, which is kind of, along these same lines. And it's just beautiful. I mean, it's just beautiful to have that openness and that honesty coming from someone like that. And then from there, we get into this hilariously edgy song called Lunch, which is just this really odd way of hitting on a girl. And it's fun. I mean, it's something that I was not expecting going into this at all. And I know that it's been getting a lot of play on social media and a lot of play out there because people are like, wow, this is amazing. And I agree. It's definitely a different side of Billie that we haven't seen before. And it's something that I really appreciate. But to me, the real smash hit of this album is Birds of a Feather. And this is really just such a much more subdued Billie Eilish during this particular album era, however you want to classify it, because the music and the production choices are all very subdued, very somber. We don't have any Oxytocin moments. We don't have any bad guy moments or You Should See Me in a Crown moments where these are all like high energy, up-tempo songs. Lunch is really the closest thing we get to that, but then the rest are really more scaled back. But I think that absolutely shows the range that Billie has. And I mean, we all knew that Billie could sing. We all knew that there was a lot of vocal range there, but I think this album really just kind of hammers home that point and really just makes it clear that this is one of the top artists out right now. Wildflower is a gorgeous lyrical track that has a perfect blending of emotion and everything else to it. And there's just some personality on this album as well. And I feel like that really shined through on a track like L'amour de ma vie, which I feel like I just butchered, so bear with me. But anyways, she has this little giggle when you get the line that says, "You said you never fall in love again 'cause of me. Then you moved on immediately." And the little giggle that comes from that is just so great because it really shows the personal feeling to that. A lot of times when we get these lyrics and these emotional tracks, especially if an artist didn't have a hand in writing it, you don't always feel that emotional connection, but just that little intricate piece of a giggle with it makes you feel like, okay, this is something that this person actually went through and they're actually telling us how they felt during the process. And I think that's really where this review stops, because I am so interested to see where Billie goes from here, because we've gotten the smash debut with the bad guys and all those different things. We've gotten the more subdued but still pretty energetic Therefore I Am album. We then got this, which is a very subdued but also very introspective album after we had a smash with the Barbie soundtrack collaboration. So where do we go from here? That's really going to be the question that I have, and it'll be very interesting to see after this album and tour cycle kind of what the next step is for Billie Eilish. I think it's going to be interesting to see. I think Hit Me Hard and Soft is absolutely a contender for Album of the Year at the Grammys, and I know the Grammys are definitely something that's a hot button issue, but I need to take a second here and just inform everybody of just how absolutely fucked the Album of the Year category is going to be this year already, because when we take a step back and we look at the music that's been released in this Grammy cycle, which comes to an end, I think, in like August or September, we have new albums from Taylor Swift, Beyonce, Billie Eilish, 21 Pilots, Chris Stapleton, Ariana Grande, Dua Lipa. Like, how in the hell is this going to work? We all know that all of them are likely going to be in that category. They nominate 10 at this point. I mean, my God, it can't be an easy decision, and I'm not even going to begin to try and speculate who's going to win that yet. And I can't wait to see it. It's going to be an absolute shit fest trying to figure out who's going to win that category. And it's going to be interesting because a lot of that is good music, and, you know, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But as far as my feelings on the album, I loved it. Hit Me Hard and Soft was not my favorite Billie Eilish album, but it is definitely one of my more favorite listens this year, especially outside of our alternative realm that we usually listen to. So, such a fun time with this amazing artist. Haven't heard it yet. Hit Me Hard and Soft by Billie Eilish. Go check it out. That wraps it up for album reviews, but as I said, I wanted to just mention a couple of songs and artists that I've really been into a lot lately. The first one being a band called LOVELOST, and they have songs Pulling at the Threads and Burn Bright. They were just a random discovery when I was doing my music discovery process, and it's been a lot of fun. They only have 3 tracks out right now, but it's been a lot of fun with these 2 specifically, and they're on the playlist, so go listen to them. Free Friends, friends of the podcast, big supporters, and they have a new track out called Goodbye and Goodnight. Been a big favorite of mine. Really been enjoying that. The Used and their new track Meds. Gotta be honest, guys, I was not expecting to be as into a track from The Used in 2024 as I am with this track. what in the world? Where did they get this rejuvenation from? Because we all know my feelings on the album last year, and it was not good. It was not a fun time. I did not enjoy that album at all. I hated even doing a review on it, but I felt like it was necessary. So to have this like complete 180 and get a song like Meds, which is just phenomenal, is actually kind of encouraging. I'm not going to lie. I'm actually looking forward to this album cycle that they got coming up. So hopefully we get more good from them. I've also been really into 3 Cheers Too Late by Slideways. So Slideways is the new band off of Happy Haunting Records, another supporter of the podcast, big fan of what they got going on out there. Obviously, you know how I felt about their first signing, In Balance. Big fans of them, so really interested to see where Slideways goes from here. They had a great start here with 3 Cheers to Too Late, and I'm looking forward to hearing more. And then the last 2 songs are Car Sex by Mitch and Thirst Trap by Trxvis. Again, 2 artists that I'm really high on. You know how high I was on the EP from Mitch last year, and you know how big I was making Trxvis one of my discoveries of the week last year. They continue to put out quality music, continue to put out really fun stuff. If you haven't heard any of these tracks yet, go check them out. They're all going to be in the playlist. Playlist is updated every week, so you'll be continuing to get more and more new music if you follow along with us here at Matrix Music Review. That wraps it up for me this week on Matrix Music Review. I hope everybody enjoyed. Make sure you're following on all the social media platforms. Make sure you're liking and giving a 5-star review on Spotify and Apple Music, wherever you're listening. Make sure you're sharing the podcast with your friends, your family, whoever it is that needs a new podcast, helping us grow the little community of music lovers that we got here. And I will see you guys next time. We'll have another review episode coming with reviews of Lolo, Rarity, and many others. See you guys then.